The broken promise. Fellow El Paso residents, we need to talk about a system that's costing you millions of dollars every year while making our community less safe. More than a decade ago, El Paso County officials made you a promise. They created a personal recognizance bond policy through the Criminal Justice Coordination Department that was supposed to be smarter, cheaper, and safer. Release certain defendants without cash bail, reduce jail costs, and maintain public safety. It sounded like a win for everyone. But here's the harsh reality. The PR bond system isn't just underperforming. It's bleeding your taxpayer money while creating dangerous accountability gaps that put your family and community at risk. Let's talk numbers because the numbers don't lie. In fiscal year 2024, the Criminal Justice Coordination Department operated with a budget of $4,141,981. The revenue it generated from PR bond fees? A mere $1,150. Think about that for a moment. That's less than 3 cents collected for every $100 you provide through your tax bill. Meanwhile, proper fee collection could generate anywhere between $172,320 and $1,579,185 annually. Instead, that money comes straight from your property taxes. Your hard-earned money is subsidizing a system that refuses to collect the fees it's legally authorized to collect. This isn't just about money, though. It's about accountability. It's about a department that can't even define what it's supposed to do while spending over $4 million of your money every year. We need answers from the Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership. They work for you, not the other way around. And it's time they started acting like it. A department that can't define its job. Here's something that would be laughable if it weren't so expensive. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department suffers from a fundamental identity crisis. Their own policy documents state they strive to enhance pretrial justice by providing locally validated evidence-based information to the courts. They claim their assessment and intake unit serves as the primary source for information gathering regarding pretrial risk. But when pressed for specifics, Assistant County Attorney Eric J. Bauer provided a stunning contradiction in writing. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department, quote, does not recommend a type of bail or supervision level, end quote, he stated. Their assessment and intake unit does not review booking sheets or dockets. Listen to that again. The department responsible for pretrial assessment doesn't make recommendations and doesn't review critical documents. So what exactly are you paying $4.1 million annually to fund? More importantly, if nobody's making informed recommendations about who should be released, who's protecting your neighborhood from dangerous defendants? This isn't bureaucratic confusion. It's a complete breakdown of accountability that directly impacts public safety. When a department cannot articulate its basic functions, taxpayers should demand answers. The most dangerous flaw in El Paso's PR bond system is its complete lack of financial consequences for violations. When defendants fail to appear in court or break their bond conditions, nothing happens to their wallet. Unlike commercial bonds where bail can be forfeited, PR bonds can't generate judgment. Nisi orders because defendants are considered to not have a bond in the traditional sense. This creates a revolving door with no accountability. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department's own data shows that 21% of terminated PR bond cases involve violations of bond conditions. In September 2024 alone, 165 notices of violation were submitted to the court for defendants who failed to comply. How many judgment nisi orders were issued? 0. Each violation represents more than a policy failure. It represents additional costs for law enforcement to track down and rearrest defendants, court time to process new warrants, and potential threats to community safety, all funded by your tax dollars with no recovery mechanism in place. We need accountability from the Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership now. This system is failing you and your community every single day. The financial hemorrhage. Let's talk about what this failed policy is really costing you as an El Paso taxpayer. The financial impact bleeds throughout El Paso County's entire budget. County detention facilities represent the single most expensive operation in the county budget, yet PR bonds fail to meaningfully reduce these costs. Here's the reality behind the rhetoric. When PR bond releases free up jail beds, those beds are immediately filled by other detainees, including federal prisoners housed at $80 per day, paid by federal government agencies such as the U.S. Marshal Service and the City of El Paso for inmates for whom El Paso County is not financially responsible. The county generates revenue annually from federal prisoner contracts. This means jail facilities continue to operate at full capacity and full cost, while PR bonds provide no offsetting revenue, just a revolving door back into the community. The county's financial records paint an even grimmer picture. From 2009 to 2019, revenues associated with PR bond operations consistently appeared as negative numbers in the county's financial system. The department implemented a sliding scale for collecting court costs, escalating from 25% after 30 days to 50% after 60 days, yet still fails to collect meaningful revenue. Of the $4.1 million budget for 2024, more than $3.7 million of that went to salaries and benefits like health insurance and retirement, yet no clear organizational structure or accountability measures exist. In fact, the budget for 2024 was almost 3% higher than the prior fiscal year. For what? $1,100 in revenue. Most telling of all, the Criminal Justice Coordination Department explicitly stated in June 2025 that it does not collect fees related to pretrial supervision. Translation? These costs pass directly to taxpayers with no recovery mechanism whatsoever. But it gets worse. The problems plaguing El Paso County's PR bond system aren't new revelations. They are well-documented legacy issues that have been ignored for over a decade. During the decade prior to the current PR bond expansion, the PR bond office collected a mere $46,000 on more than $5 million in failed PR bonds. That's less than a 1% success rate in collections. Meanwhile, during that same period, El Paso County collected 100% of bond forfeitures from the private bail industry, adding over $10 million to public coffers. We need accountability from the Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership. This financial hemorrhaging has to stop. The superior alternative. There is a better way forward for El Paso. A properly implemented commercial surety bond system would address every major flaw in the current PR bond approach while generating revenue for El Paso County instead of draining it. Let me break this down for you. First, financial accountability. Commercial surety companies require defendants to pay a percentage of their bond amount upfront, typically 10 to 15%. This creates immediate financial accountability that PR bonds completely lack. When defendants violate bond conditions or fail to appear, the full bond amount becomes due and collectible. Second, enforcement incentives. Bail companies are motivated to ensure defendants get to court. When a defendant fails to appear, a bail company has limited time to find, apprehend, and return the defendant to the court's jurisdiction or suffer dire financial consequences. In contrast, the PR bond office does not actively seek apprehension of defendants, relying instead on passive arrests during routine traffic stops. This oftentimes heightens the danger to law enforcement personnel who are unaware of the arrest warrants or dangerousness of the individual they have stopped. Third, revenue generation. Instead of costing the county millions annually, a surety bail system generates revenue through bond forfeitures when defendants fail to appear. Currently, El Paso County is authorized to collect 3% of the face value of personal bonds, but refuses to do so. It is also authorized to collect 100% of personal forfeitures in the same manner as surety bonds, but has made a policy decision not to do so. The historical data proves this works. Over a 10-year period, El Paso County collected 100% of bond forfeitures from private bail companies, generating over $10 million in revenue. Compare this to the PR bond system's collection of just $46,000 on more than $5 million in failed bonds during the same decade. Based on current violation rates, returning to a robust commercial surety system could generate hundreds of thousands in annual revenue instead of massive losses. Fourth, risk management. Commercial surety companies conduct thorough background checks and risk assessments because their financial survival depends on accurate evaluation. They reject high-risk defendants that PR bonds currently release without adequate screening. Fifth, reduced county liability. Private surety companies assume financial responsibility for defendant compliance, removing this burden from county budgets and taxpayers. The difference is stark. PR bonds cost El Paso County over $4 million annually while generating less than a neighborhood lemonade stand. A commercial surety system operated at no cost to taxpayers during the previous decade while generating $10 million in revenue. We need the Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership to explain why they continue to resist a system that works. Information you can't trust. Here's something that should terrify every El Paso resident. The foundation of any pretrial system must be reliable information. Yet El Paso's pretrial risk assessment report, which judges use for critical release decisions, contains a devastating disclaimer. Quote, "Pretrial services makes no representations or warranties regarding the completeness or accuracy of this information." End quote. Think about that. Judges are deciding whether to release potentially dangerous defendants based on information that the department itself admits might be wrong or incomplete. Would you want critical decisions about your family's safety based on admittedly unreliable data? The problems run deeper. Pretrial risk assessments, supposedly the cornerstone of evidence-based decision-making, are limited to certain groups of defendants only. This means these assessments are primarily conducted for all non-federal defendants, booked at the downtown detention facility on a Class B misdemeanor or higher charge with specific supervision recommendations and guidelines varying based on the offense level categories. When the tools designed to protect public safety are acknowledged as unreliable, how can taxpayers trust that dangerous individuals aren't being released inappropriately? And when citizens attempt to evaluate Criminal Justice Coordination Department performance, they encounter systematic obstruction. In March 2019, public information request for basic program data was rejected with claims of substantial interference with department operations. The county attorney's office suggested the Criminal Justice Coordination Department doesn't possess requested information and cited confidentiality concerns for withholding other data. In May 2025, requests for information about program effectiveness and budget details were similarly redirected and obfuscated. When a department claims it doesn't have basic performance data about its own operations, that's not confidentiality. That's incompetence or deliberate concealment. This opacity isn't just frustrating, it's fundamentally incompatible with democratic accountability. You have a right to understand how your tax money is spent and whether county programs achieve their stated goals. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department's resistance to providing basic performance metrics suggests an organization that cannot or will not demonstrate its value to the community. Every aspect of this system costs taxpayers money without delivering promised benefits. The $4.1 million annual Criminal Justice Coordination Department budget represents just the beginning of PR bond costs. There's lost revenue enforcement costs, court costs, administrative overhead, and opportunity costs. Resources that could fund essential county services instead go to subsidize a failing program. Meanwhile, county detention facilities continue operating as the most expensive function of county government. The promised cost savings never materialized because jail populations remain constant while PR bond administrative costs were added to the budget. We need transparency and accountability from the Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership. They work for you and they owe you answers. Your call to action. Fellow El Paso residents, the choice is yours. This isn't about politics or ideology. It's about results, accountability, and your money. PR bonds were supposed to save costs and protect public safety. They're accomplishing neither while draining over $4 million annually from county coffers. Every time a defendant skips court or violates conditions with no financial consequence, the system fails. Every time you pay property taxes to subsidize a program that generates virtually no revenue even while the legislature has provided the tools to do so, you're funding failure. Every time dangerous defendants are released without proper screening or accountability, your community becomes less safe. The data is clear. The problems are documented. The solutions exist. What's missing is political pressure from taxpayers who demand better. Here's what you need to do right now. First, Attend commissioners' court budget meetings and demand answers about PR bond performance. Ask specific questions about the $4.1 million budget and $1,150 revenue collection. Commissioners need to hear directly from taxpayers who are tired of subsidizing failure. Second, contact your county commissioner and demand reform. The current system isn't working, and continuing to fund it without accountability measures is fiscal irresponsibility. Make your voice heard. Third, engage with the budget process when commissioners consider next year's Criminal Justice Coordination Department funding. A department that collects less than 3 cents per every $100 spent should justify every penny of taxpayer money. Fourth, support candidates who prioritize fiscal responsibility and public safety over failed policies that benefit no one except the bureaucrats who administer them. You have the power to change this system. County commissioners work for you, not the other way around. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department operates with your money, not their own. And your voice combined with other concerned citizens can force the accountability and reform that El Paso deserves. The question isn't whether El Paso can afford to reform this broken system. The question is whether you can afford to keep paying for its failure. Your tax bill, your family's safety, and your community's future depend on making the right choice. The Criminal Justice Coordination Department and its leadership have had over a decade to make this system work. They've failed. The decline from $10 million in collections over 10 years to $1,150 in 2024 represents one of the most dramatic policy failures in El Paso County history. Demand better, attend meetings, hold officials accountable. El Paso deserves a pretrial system that works for taxpayers, not against them. Your community is counting on you. Don't let them down.